everyone, Ashley Mailloux here with the Daily Racing Form. DRF's race of the day this Sunday is race number 7 from Santa Anita Park at a mile on the turf. It's a Grade 3 American Stakes for 4-year-olds and upward. And looking at the field, it's a field of 6 runners top to bottom. Some really nice horses in here, such as the number 1, Earl's Rock, the 3, Du Jour, and a couple other horses that they've scored upsets in the past. Irideo scored a really big upset last summer at Del Mar at odds of 31-1 in the Wicker, and just kind of seeing these horses. A lot of these horses have fared well against stakes competition. So a nice field we'll dive into in a second. Don't forget, if you're on your mobile device, you can click or scan the QR code here to get race of the day access. And don't forget, that means free DRF past performances. A great way, if you're not familiar with the PPs here at DRF, to get that free access. Now, looking at the field, I mentioned Earl's Rock. Really nice horse, and he's actually going to kick off the field. This 5-year-old son, a fascinating rock. He's 4 for 7 in his career so far, and he's actually rattled off back-to-back wins in his last 2 efforts. And I want to take a look at that most recent race on February 4th. It's the Grade 3 Thunder Road, and a lot of action going on here. It was a big field. The 1 is Earl's Rock. The 2 is Du Jour. The 6 is Iridale, and the 4 is Bob and Jack. So a lot of horses there to point out here in this big field. But looking at the performance that Earl's Rock throws in, I think he races a really big race. It was his first start since December 4th at Del Mar, and really it had been a couple starts since he had faced stakes competition. And just to see the way that he split horses, I thought was extremely game, whereas the 2, Du Jour, kind of had that outside clearance, but both horses ran very well. He got a 94 Beyer speed figure. Earl's Rock did, which for him is a career best, and he's just really hard to knock. And I think even second time out this year, we're going to even see an improvement for him. So the good thing about him is what we saw on the Thunder Road. He could close from off of it, but even 2 starts back, he was closer to the pace at Del Mar back in December. Now the 2, Bob and Jackie, this horse disappointed in the Thunder Road. It actually finished 7th in that race, and it's been a while since he's seen the winner's circle. It was actually a dirt race back in late 2021. when he was able to win the San Gabriel, and that was a compact field of 4 runners. He only had 3 competitors, and he took them gate to wire. He's only got 1 win from 11 starts on the Santa Anita Park turf course. But I think the big thing to note with Bob and Jackie, in terms of the pace scenario, I think he's going to have a big thing to say about it, right? In terms of he's got early foot. I think he'll be involved early and maybe can control the pace early on and stick around for a share in here. But he's going to need to show more than he has in his last several efforts. The number 3, Du Jour, we showed the race from the Thunder Road, but he's actually raced since then one more time. He raced on March 4th in the Frank Kilroe Grade 1 event, and I wanted to show the replay for him specifically in this race because he's the number 7 towards the back of the pack, all the way on the outside. And with being on the outside, the good thing for him, he is in the clear. And in kind of looking at him and this performance, he does kind of unleash a really powerful charge in the stretch, but he just doesn't get the job done in here. Little Red Feathers, Golden Phoenix ends up getting the job done in here. But I thought Du Jour ran another big effort. Unfortunately, he's had to settle for second in his last 2 starts. But to look at his progression, this is a horse who back in 2021, his form was tailing off, and he wasn't performing really well at Kentucky Downs and then in the Mathis Mile back at Santa Anita in December of 2021. And it gave him significant time off. So now as a 5-year-old, just to see his 2 races so far this year, I have to think the connections are very happy. Actually, as a career best Beyer speed figure last out of a 98. And he is going to close from off of it. That's what he's kind of done in his last several efforts. But the pace is right. I think he's got a big shot, and just to see what he's done so far, I'm really impressed with the Du Jour. The 4, Exalted, this one out of the Peter Urton barn, has won 2 races back-to-back, both at a mile on the grass. And for him, these are his only 2 turf efforts. He was on the dirt prior to that. He had tried the triple brand a couple times in his career in terms of stakes competition, but since then, he hasn't. He's been those allowance optional claiming events or even allowance races. And I wanted to take a look at his most recent race. Now, this one was on February 5th. I know it's not a stakes race. He is 8-5 in this race. Now, he's going to get bumped here right there in the stretch. It's not a bad bump or anything. He does have that outside clearance that he's able to kick on in here, and he wins as he should have against this group. I thought it was a good performance. To see him now get those 2 turf efforts under his belt. He seems to be trending in the right direction. I think in terms of getting him into a stakes race, this is a good spot. It's not a big field. He is facing some nice horses in here, but his recent form suggests that he's kind of ready to hang out with the big horses, if that's what we want to say. So I do respect him in this spot. The number 5, Vanzi. This one recently joined the Dan Blacker barn, finished 9th in the American, but that's when the American was raced in June of 2022. So there's been a little shift in the stake schedule. Prior to that, he was a pretty big second in the Grade 3 San Francisco Mile out at Golden Gate. He's only making his second start, though, since April of 2022 and just his first start of 2023. So I'm not sure what to make of him. He's probably going to need a race or two at least to get back into form and then to make some sort of hardcore assessment about Vanzi. Then rounding out the field, the number 6, Irideo. Mentioned this horse scored a really big upset last summer at Del Mar, and that was actually the last time he's been in the winner's circle. Now, he's had a nice effort after that in the Grade 2 Del Mar Mile, and since then, he's tried to get those minor pieces and has been unable to do so. A big thing with that is his running style, right? He's going to close from off of it. They've tried different things, whether he's gone a mile and a 16th, 6.5. It just hasn't panned out the way that they've wanted. I will say I thought he did race well in the Thunder Road last time out. He was 4th, and we saw the finish there. It was a pretty close finish across the board. So he only missed by 3/4 of a length. He was an outsider once again in there. I do think he'll be a bit of a price in this spot, but I do like that Hector Berrios stays with him. He's been aboard him for several of his best efforts that we've seen in the last year or two. But the pace will have to be really contested. And just looking at some other runners in here, Bob and Jackie could be forwardly placed, maybe another horse, but I don't necessarily see that speed duel that he would need to probably get the job done. So that's the field of 6 for the Grade 3 American. And looking at the group, I think it's maybe a 2-horse race between the 1 Earl's Rock and the 3 De Jour. And I know Earl's Rock is trying to keep that win streak alive, and De Jour is trying to get out of second place. And I think De Jour can possibly do that on Sunday. I do make him my top pick. His last 2 efforts, he's been wickedly good in those races just to get denied. They're almost winning efforts when you look back at the replays and see the trips that he got. I just think third start off that really long layoff is going to help his chances, and he might be able to flip the script here on the number 1 Earl's Rock. You can't take anything away from him. He's been really good in his last 2 grass efforts, and I think he's probably the other horse in here. And outside of the main 2, I mentioned the 4 Exalted going to kind of test the stakes competition, at least on the turf. I think this is a good spot for him to do so. And the 2 Bob and Jackie, likely to be part of that pace scenario, maybe can hang around for a share. But for me, De Jour in Sunday's Grade 3 American. Good luck.